right. Well, good morning, everybody. Welcome to the session for Discovery Ed Interactive, specifically for our secondary folks. I'm very pleased to introduce you to Tracy Harnett. She is our new Discovery Ed rep. I think you're really going to enjoy learning from her this morning. And so without further ado, I want to turn it over to Tracy, and so we all can learn about some new interactives.
Awesome. Thanks, Carrie. Well, welcome, everyone. I'm really excited that you're here. As Carrie said, I support your district with all things discovery education. I have been in this role for about 4-ish years. Prior to that, I was on our professional learning team. And before that, I worked in DC public schools. So had a little bit of different roles at Discovery, but really happy to be here supporting you all this morning. And as Carrie mentioned, we're going to talk about interactives and how to pull that content into your classroom to help engage your kiddos and create really dynamic pieces of lessons. So just as a note, and I'll remind you of this throughout the session, all teachers and students access Discovery Education via ClassLink. So before we dive in today, if you do not know how to access Discovery Education, please just drop me a note in the chat. If you could take a second and log in, that would be wonderful. So give everyone a minute to do that. And just as a housekeeping item, I know that you all have access to the folders for each session. So in our interactive session, I dropped a folder there, and we have a guide here that will have all of the resources from today's session on that guide. And the guide looks just like this. So this is what you will have access to in that folder. So we'll be talking a little bit about some instructional strategies. We're going to go through a mini immersion and a couple other resources there for you. But just as a note, this is in that folder. So give everyone another second to log into Discovery. And again, if you have any problems, go ahead and raise your hand or drop me a note in the chat. Give everyone a minute to do that. All right. So before we jump in today, just to kind of get a pulse on how we might be using interactive content, even if it's not Discovery Education interactive content, just interactive content in general in your classroom, that we could do a small activity here. So in Discovery Education, if you are not super familiar with it, we have a feature called Quiz. And Quiz lets you create and assign or share different types of quizzes. We have standard quizzes that look a lot like polling or multiple choice. Then we also have video quizzes where you can drop questions at point of use within a video for students to respond to as prompts. We also have exit tickets and such. So a great feature in Discovery Education. I thought we'd kick off with a quiz today. So I'm going to go ahead and launch this now. And there's 2 ways you can get into our quiz. If you have a device with you that has a QR code, even if it's just your phone, you can take a picture of this, use this QR code as a way in, or if you're in Discovery Education, you could drop a code, and there's a box in the upper left corner, or probably the easiest way is for me to copy and paste this link and drop it in the chat. So if I, I apologize. I'm not super Google friendly with our Meet, so I apologize. I have my
The chat is down at the very bottom left right-hand corner. It's the one that looks beside the little people person. Has the little blue button, if that's the little speech bubble.
Yeah, I am not seeing that. It has just, I know.
You should have.
Does it matter if I went picture in picture that the chat would not
You
Are
know
you
what? I've never
sure?
done the picture-in-picture,
Oh, so
so I
then
don't know.
okay, so let me get out a picture-in-picture, and maybe that's why I'm not seeing it.
But I'm typing it in for you, so
Okay, well, thanks.
I think I got that correct. If not, then, y'all can fix my typos.
Oh, you know what okay, never mind. I had to click on 3 dots to get to the messaging. It worked. Thank you, everyone, for your patience with me. All right, so what I'm gonna do is, all right. So I see some new folks joined us. I'll give everyone just a second, and then I'm going to go ahead and unlock devices so we can start our quiz. For those folks who just joined us, we're in Discovery Education, and Carrie dropped a link in the chat. I will drop it in one more time if you need a second to join us.
It's asking me for a code.
When you use the link,
Yes.
okay. Well, can you try the code SCBSU? It's just the last part of the address here. Okay. All right. If anyone else has anything, just drop it in the chat. Please feel free to come off mute at any point in time. And I'm going to go ahead and unlock the student devices. That's you all. So our first question is, I use interactive content during instruction. How often? And it could be any interactive content. It doesn't have to be Discovery Education. All sorts of interactive content. All right. So good. I'm not sure. I think we're good. That's 5 people in, 5 people in. On to question 2. Would you rather, as putting on your student hat right now, explore interactive illustrations or play an interactive game? I think I know the answer or your student's answer, but be interesting to see. All right. And then when I think of using interactive content with my class, or if you're in a coach role, the class that you're supporting, when you envision your students using interactives, what's the first thing that comes to your mind? How would they use it? All right. And how are you doing today? And I love this question for a variety of reasons, but what I love most about it is that right now you should have a little pad in front of you where you can draw. And I just love to put this question in, especially for teachers, to give you a second to, be a kiddo for a second, draw. And it is a way that I love using this with students, just even as an activator, this feature and quiz, where we could, we're drawing and labeling something really quickly as a follow-up to a lesson, or we're using it as an exit ticket to show, one thing that we learned. So I just love it. And I think it's really cool. And I'll show you the answers in a second and what it would look like on your end. All right, I give everyone one more second. All right. So thanks for sharing your thoughts with me. We're going to go back to the first question and show our answers. So how often do we use interactive content? Every now and then, and not that much. And I think too, this whole, when I was in the classroom, there were years I taught social studies, and there were probably, I rarely used an interactive. So I think it also might be dependent on the subject area that you teach. But hopefully after our time today, you'll think a little bit more about where this type of content might fit in, if it does fit in with your classes. And then, would you rather explore an interactive illustration to research a topic or play an interactive game to review content? I personally would go with A, I think, but I think most of our kiddos would probably gravitate towards, I think, playing a game. And then when I think of using interactive content, I love that we are split here, exploring independently, working in small groups, or learning as a whole group. I would say that in the time that I've spent in classrooms, most of the time when I see students working with interactives, they're exploring independently, which is a wonderful way for students to interact with that content. Today, we're going to talk a little bit more about learning as a whole group and working in small groups as well. So having, some idea share about when we have interactives, what is the best fit in your classroom, or potentially other ways to implement. And then lastly, I love this, right? Super fun. I love that, we have all smiley faces across the board. And I love that we use the happy color yellow. So fantastic. Again, this feature completely open to you, and all of these features in Discovery Education as part of our quiz pack. And just so you know, these answers go to a dashboard. So I have kept all of our names hidden here. You could show your student names. You can go through responses with your kiddos, etc. So I think just a really neat feature that teachers might not know we have. So thank you for sharing all that content. It's fantastic to know that heading into our time together today. So here is our learning target. I'll give you a second to read and digest. And when we talk about interactives and discovery, we have a variety of interactives. And for those folks who might not be super familiar with Discovery Education, we are a K-12 platform, and we have content that stretches across all subject areas. So interactives is the same. We have interactives that go from K all the way through 9, 6, 6, 8, 9, 12, and we're going to dive into those pieces today. Just as kind of a cursory what you have access to, when you land in Discovery Education, it should look a little bit like this. I am in my own account, so I'm going to show all of the services that we have in Discovery Education. But when you log in, this banner should be the first thing that you see. And just as a reminder for the folks who may have been joining us a little bit after we got started, all students and teachers access Discovery Education via ClassLink. So if you have not hopped in, I invite you to do so now. Before we dive into our interactive content, I just wanted to give you kind of this global navigation view so you are familiar once we start digging in. You're going to, when you scroll down, see channels and such, activities that are appropriate for you, your kiddos, timely and relevant content, and then videos that probably align with things that you've searched for in Discovery Education before. So a little algorithm we have there that will put in content that matches your prior searches. When I was in the classroom, probably the one thing I relied on the most was this search bar at the top, hands down. And when I started going into an instructional coach role, this is where I directed most of my teachers to find any type of content. So just as a heads up, you can click into the search bar. I just hit enter to do a global search. It's going to pull in all content, which is an awful lot in Discovery Education. But you, of course, if you're looking for something specific today, can use the search bar as a keyword search to find whatever. So I was working with a teacher yesterday on energy, so I'll use that as our example here. When we type in this keyword, we will get quite a few results. And we have all of these filters at the top here. So these filters are going to filter out by media. We can filter out by grade level. And then also on the side over here, we'll be able to filter out if we're looking at text pieces through reading level. We'll be able to look at copyright date. So if you are looking at something that you're finding you want copyright date that's brand new, you'll be able to search that here, and then you'll be able to sort through language as well. So any questions on accessing Discovery Education before we hop in together? All right. Okay. So just as a reminder too, that you could search just easily for interactives as well. If that's your keyword search today, that's totally cool. If instead of doing a keyword search for a content or something in your subject area. So how can we help make learning interactive with Discovery Education? And I know from talking to Carrie before that session, we really want to give you time to explore and to build and to think through resources on your own and resources that might match what you're working on in your classroom. So in thinking about that, what we'd like to do is use a strategy called Pick a Card. And in Discovery Education, in case you're not familiar, we have a boatload, hundreds of instructional strategies. So when we talk about strategies in Discovery Education, they are categorized by skills, summarizing, providing evidence, all sorts of skills. So if you were to search for strategies and you could just put in instructional strategies in that keyword search bar, it's going to return in hundreds of strategies. So this is the one that we're going to be working with today, and it's called Pick a Card. And generally with Pick a Card, and I think I put Pick a Card in right here, see in my search bar, and this is what it's pulled in. When I think of Pick a Card, I use a strategy like this in my classroom. I'm sure you've used something very similar. And we usually use this on paper, where sometimes we'd have a set of questions and we distribute those questions around to small groups, and each group would work on a different question. And then perhaps the next class, we'd shuffle that deck and put everyone in small groups, and each group would work on a different question. So just kind of a riff on that strategy. So when we talk about Pick a Card, we're looking for students to interact with media twice. So we're going to give them a prompt. We're going to ask students to independently interact with content, and this is going to be interactive today. So independently interact with the interactive, and then return to the card that they picked to think about what's on the card a second time, and then interact with the content again. So it's really given students that goes back to what we had, a question we had during that quiz. How do we see students interacting with this content? And here they're going to be at first interacting with it independently. Then we're going to come back as a group. You all are going to put your student hat on. We're going to come back as a group and debrief. So this strategy, the prep is moderate, of course, because we have to set the cards up, and I like this strategy too, because we are giving students, again, that time to independently interact with something and then come back as a group. So for you all, on this guide here, so this is in the teacher resource piece in this folder, just in case if you're here right now, you can click on this Pick a Card interactive, and it will take you to our next resource. I will also go ahead and drop that link in the chat, but I just wanted to flag for you that, again, all of our resources from today's session are on this guide. And so we're now going to this Pick a Card interactive. So I will take this link, and when you get to this, and I'll drop it right here. When you get to this piece of content, it looks like this. We can't find you can't find the folder, Marion, is that what you mean?
I haven't dropped that into, I haven't given them those.
Oh, I apologize. I'm sorry.
We send those out afterwards with the recording. So if you want to drop that, just slide that share link in there for them. I apologize for that one.
No. I didn't understand. That is on me. My apologies. So there is the guide. I'm sorry, everyone. The first link I dropped there is the studio board that we'll be visiting for Pick a Card. Christina, no, but I felt that way multiple times this morning, and it's only 10:49. So I understand. Awesome. All right, so we are here. So again, using that pick a card strategy to frame our time today together, we are first going to hit this pick a card and select this pick a card button. So I'll give everyone a minute to get settled, get that studio board up. And again, that is this link here. So I'll drop it one more time. And when you arrive here, just for your quick background knowledge, this activity is built in Studio. It is our our content creation platform within Discovery Education, and we build all sorts of interactive activities in this platform. So you'll see Studio activities sprinkled throughout Discovery Education. Just so if it looks familiar, that might be why. So for today, we are going to first click on Pick a Card. And when we get to Pick a Card, I'm going to ask you all to pick one card, 1 through 6. It doesn't matter which card it is. Go ahead and pick a card. And when you go ahead and pick a card, it is going the number is going to pop up and it look like a mini card on your screen, and it's going to give you a task. And all right, cool. So after you have your card and you have that task in mind, you can click either the back button here or back to home. And then we are going to visit some interactives. So we're going to click on interactives and choose your grade band. I designed this board just as kind of a global K-12 board for interactives. And for our session today, I left in the K2 and I left in the 3-5 because there is a lot of content in Discovery Education that easily crosses grade bands. For example, if I'm working with some 6th grade kiddos, something that's tagged 5th grade might be appropriate. If I'm working with 8th grade kiddos, something that's tagged 9th grade might be appropriate. So I left all grade bands here for that reason. So go ahead and choose what you would like to explore. Pick an interactive. And please move through the interactive twice. Once, remember, we have our student hat on for this activity. Once we're going to go through the interactive, thinking through what this might feel like as a student. After we explore that independently, we are going to then think about that task, that card that we picked, and then revisit the interactive and think about the content a second time through the lens of the card or the perspective of what it's asking us to do. Any questions? Mine said I didn't have access to the resource. I picked the Moon Earth Pinball. Ooh, I like that one too. I'm going to take a look at that. Can you do me a favor and pick something else? And while you all are working, I'm going to take a look at that. Thank you for letting me know. All right, so I'm going to give us about 10, 12 minutes to work through this because I really want to give you all some time. And if you finish up early, feel free to explore, but just go ahead and let me know if you have any questions. I will be here. And I'm going to take a look at that one interactive. Thank you so much for letting me know.
Tracy, is the Moon Earth Pinball part of maybe one of the tech books?
It should not be. All of
Okay.
this content should be, it's a great question.
Yeah.
Should be available through Experience. I'm just going to take a look right now if the link is,
Got it.
needs to be refreshed or something. Thank you. All right, so we're going to take about 4 more minutes. And I took a look at the Moon Earth pinball, so thank you for asking. I just put in a quick ticket with our support team. I'm not sure why that link isn't coming up, but again, thank you for letting me know. Okay, about 1 minute. We'll come back together at 11 o'clock. All right, so thank you so much for exploring and taking the time to do so. We're going to go into breakout rooms for a couple minutes to debrief. Before we did that, I wanted you to see if you didn't have a chance, because if I was in your shoes, I would have done it anyway. But just in case you missed it, to click on all of the cards and how that works. So I love this feature in Studio that we can have, things that look like paper cards pop up as a window for kiddos. So just in case you were wondering, when we talked about the pick a card strategy, you of course could use any prompts. And again, really easy to do on paper, index cards, scraps paper, whatever you have. But these were the prompts that were in this activity. So we talked about identifying 3 facts learned, something for, a student to easily do when exploring an interactive. We had define 3 vocabulary words included in the media. Oftentimes when we're moving through this and I think about science, social studies, ELA math, etc., we have those, they have the list of terms that we're working through on a unit or a concept. So going through that interactive and previewing and as a teacher and looking for those words that might be involved in that interactive. We had 3 questions to ponder. For the 4th one was summarize the key ideas presented. The 5th card was draw 3 pictures to represent the content. Love that one. And then the 6th one was write 3 reasons why you find this information is important. So of course, when we're working at the secondary level, these questions could be much more in depth, much, leading to more complex responses. Just kept it simple here, but pick a card is something, of course, we can alter, modify, and use in many different ways. So now I'm going to ask us to split into, and Carrie, if you would send us just even into 2 general breakout rooms, just to
Not a
debrief
problem.
really quickly, and then we'll come back together maybe in 3 or 4 minutes.
All right. We're going to do 2. You said we'll do 2 rooms?
Yeah, I think that works, right?
I think that works for me. All right. We're going to go ahead,
Thank
shuffle
you.
everybody out. And actually, we don't need Callan. Yep. We don't need you there. Okay. We're going to drop you down there. All right. Here we go.
Thank you.
and we get to hang out here.
Oh, okay. All right. Well,
If you would like, would you like to go into one of the breakout rooms? I can send you in one.
Sure, because yes, that would be wonderful.
All right, I will send you
general experiences. Thank you.
All right, it says you're assigned to breakout 1.
Oh, am I? Should it have just sent me there?
It should have.
Okay.
To be honest, I don't use them very often. And when you go, oh, you know why? Because we're hosts. If you go down the bottom corner where there's the triangle, circle, and square.
Okay.
Bottom corner, you can join breakout 1 and breakout 2. You have the ability to jump back and forth between them.
See, I think with this picture-in-picture nonsense,
do a control minus. Zoom out of your screen.
Okay.
Maybe it's it could also be the mod at the.
No, I think it's just me. I feel bad though because I missed my slide on my debrief. So when I said debrief, I didn't give the prompt. I think we'll be okay though.
Okay, I think you're good.
Pretty simple.
And then just let me know when you want me to pull them back. That's the only reason I haven't jumped into one, because I don't want to
not pull everyone back. Yeah, I think I need to do better with my Google Meet stuff.
Anytime you want to practice.
Thanks. And I knew you said the studio was a little bit, we didn't want to spend too much time in it. So I hope it's okay we have an activity in it.
Oh, absolutely. And I think something like this to show them how it can be used to get them into the interactives and all that. I think it's absolutely perfect. I'd much rather have you present within the platform, than just, screenshots or so. No, I think this is fine.
All right.
Yeah, no, you're absolutely, you're all good.
Okay.
You are all good.
All right. So maybe we'll pull them back in a minute because I want to give them more time in discovery.
Yep.
As well.
Yeah, well, you have until 11:25, so you've got 20 more minutes. So you are good.
Okay. Give them another minute.
Oh, excuse me.
Sure.
I will admit I've only been half paying attention because I've got e-coaches emailing me questions.
I'm sure you have.
I need the link for this. I need the link for that.
Busy day. Like very busy.
Yes.
Yes. Yeah. Are you taking off tomorrow?
Nah, I'll be here. Well.
Okay. Well, at least maybe it'll be quiet.
Fingers crossed.
Yeah.
Fingers crossed.
Sometimes the days after stuff like this are like, really silent.
It's also why we scheduled for a Thursday.
Very smart.
We had one day to get through. Oh, all right. I'm going to go ahead and close the rooms and pull them back.
Thank you.
I hit close. Okay, yeah. All right. Ending in. They get 21 seconds to come before they come back.
Okay, awesome.
Inevitably, this is one of those times where I always get chopped off mid-sentence.
That happens to me all the time. It's just the digital version of getting chopped off mid-sentence versus
exactly with the bell ringing. This is this is a digital version of that.
Exactly. Awesome. Yeah.
Here they all are.
Okay, wonderful. Okay, so thank you for breaking out. Thank you for sharing, kind of what your experience was moving through that interactive just at a really high level. Does anyone want to share something that I talked about in the breakout, maybe something that they found helpful with the interactive, a way that they might be able to use, not even that specific interactive, but just the idea of using an interactive with a strategy in your classroom? Anything, you feel free to put it in the chat too, or just come off mute. Go ahead, Christina.
Just like I know with science, like I'm always looking for something interactive and things like that. Like, we do the human body and the kids are always like, there are no labs. I'm like, what labs do you want to do with the body? I'm not getting corpses. Like, we're not going to nutrition school here. So just coming up with different ways that in a small classroom, like I'm not even in a science classroom. So like, I don't have space to do a lot of things that I would want to do with them. And like, we're kind of wrapping up physics now. And So letting them play and experience these things, but still with the interactives and like the pick a card or whatever, like holding them accountable without just doing a worksheet. And they still have the choice, but then I could also still control the choice to stop my kids, because we are having a huge issue with the kids just screenshotting everything and they share it. So like it's only like everyone's third period does work and then no one else does work because they've done screenshot it and shared it with each other. So like, like with the pick a card, I could say like, okay, so this period you guys are going to pick, but you only have the choices of 1, 2, or 3. And then another class, give them different ones to choose. So that way, they still get choice, but then I'm still a little bit controlling some of that and still holding them accountable for doing the activity.
Yeah.
They will think of anything to get out of work, won't they?
If they spent even a fraction, like a 15th of a fraction, doing the work, they wouldn't have to work so hard to get around not doing it.
This is a common conversation in our office, just letting you know.
It's everywhere.
Yep.
Wow. Thank you all really for what you do, because the patience and or I'll just stick with the word patience that you have for moving through your day, I really admire. I have been there, but I haven't been in the classroom since COVID, so I know things have shifted quite a bit. Christina, thank you for sharing that. I just and I love thinking through ways to give students that choice while we're still having, not, I don't want to, we always want to give students autonomy. We always want them to feel that they are driving that learning. But again, we can put that in some sort of, like you said, some sort of a little bit of a control on our end, so that we're, honestly monitoring those choices, but that we're selecting those choices and then passing it on to them. So just as a quick flag, pick a card is a fantastic strategy. I put in the search bar SOS because that's the name of our strategy series. So if you wanted to see all of our strategies, they're all here. And pick a card, again, great one if you wanted to see others. As I mentioned at the start, we kind of bucket these out by skill. As you can imagine, just like everything else, there's crossover. So something that might appear in point of view and purpose would also appear in compare and contrast potentially. Just so you know that those are all available to you. I think this is kind of our secret gold mine in discovery, because a lot of folks think that, yes, we have tons of video content. Yes, we have some instructional activities you might be able to use, but the strategies are one of those things that is a great place to explore because it's so vast and a lot of folks just don't know it's there. So again, thank you for sharing that back. And then moving through the interactives, and I'm going to apologize too. Is there anyone else who wanted to share anything from their debrief before I move into more interactive content? No? And if you think of anything later, feel free to come off of mute or put it in the chat. Oh, go ahead, Sarah. Thanks.
I was just wondering, I teach tech ed.
Okay.
And so sometimes it's hard to find content in Discovery Ed that corresponds to the crazy topics that I cover in my classes. But for an interactive, like pick a card, is like that already programmed into Discovery Ed?
Great
Can I
question.
modify it? Can I personalize it?
I love that question. Of course. So in Studio, so this interactive, by the way, right now, like at this minute, so you have up on your screen, if you were to hit the word copy, it will take a copy of this interactive and put it into your Studio library. So it is yours. You can modify it however you like, and that is true of any instructional activity in Discovery Education. So if I was to hit copy, I'll get this message. It says copy the slideshow and add it to your Studio dashboard. I hit copy and continue. I am now moving through a copy of this slideshow where I will be able to change anything I want. So over here, I'm going to say, I'd say, here's how we change features and here's how we add content. So we can select to add any type of content in here. We can customize what it looks like. Your kiddos also have studios also available to them. Customization, a very popular feature with students, as you can imagine, because they could spend, 20 minutes customizing something and not doing what they're supposed to do. And then you can also add in teacher notes. So if you wanted to, when you were presenting this, to have a note for yourself over here to remind yourself to do something, you could do that too. But yes, great question. This is all there for you. It's built. Feel free to take it and use it as you like. And on the guide, I will drop in a link that gives you kind of step-by-step instructions on modifying Studio, just in case you have any questions about it. It's really easy. So I'm just make myself a note for that.
Thank you.
Sure. Great question. All right. I know we have about 11 minutes left together, and I want to give you all more time to explore, whether it's interactives, whether it's to look at SOS. I just wanted to highlight one thing before we go back into our exploration. So I put for this example, I put interactives in the search bar here, and you'll see that we have kind of channels of interactives, and channels are curated collections of content. So we have different channels that have different types of interactives. So when we talk about that human body, this might be one there. So if I was to go into science, it's going to divide my science interactives out again by grade band. And this is what, not only did I want to highlight this channel, or that the channels are available to you, but that there are those instructional activities that align with a lot of our interactive content. So might want to extend that interactive content for you. So just so you know, in that channel, you are going to find different types of interactives and explorations, skill builders. Awesome. And then if I was to click on this investigation here and then scroll down, you are also going to see additional content that will support the learning in the interactive. So even after you click into any of the interactives, make sure you scroll down to see more resources that are like that interactive. And I think from a planning angle, whether you are planning for your own classroom, whether you're supporting a teacher that's planning, this is a really nice feature, because these are the types of these resources are going to vary. So there's going to be PDF activities here, additional investigation, that's another interactive. So you'll start to see different types of content there too. So I would just want to flag that as a feature when we're looking through different types of content. All right, so it's 11:16. I'd love to give you more time to hop back into Discovery Education. And right before we do, I wanted to talk about this slide just for a quick second, because it loops back around to one of the first points that we discussed. So when we're thinking about how to implement this content in our classroom, that interactive like pick a card or an SOS strategy is a great one, but we also can move through interactives independently, of course, assigning them small group, whether working in a station or a workshop model, and then also whole group. And I think sometimes we don't think about interactives as a whole group, but we do see quite a few teachers using it in that manner. And it's nice too. It's almost like, I think sometimes working with a video whole group. We want to frame that learning somehow. So potentially using an instructional strategy when we use that interactive and pausing often while we're moving through it. So just to give you a flag while you look through additional content, to think about, maybe I always use interactives independently, and maybe I can start to think through how I might use them whole group if that's appropriate. So it's 11:17. Why don't we come back together at 11:23, and then we'll finish out. And please feel free to come off mute, drop any questions in the chat that you may have, but just to go back in and take a look at some additional content. And just a quick note while you're looking for content, if you do find content that you would like to, if you're finding content, I'll put it this way, that you would like to maybe look at later but don't have a time to kind of vet right now, when you're looking through content, there's these 3 buttons, this ellipse here. You can always add it to your favorites. So all I did was hover over this, click, and hit add to favorites. This used to be called quick list in Discovery Education, but if I was to add it to my favorite, it will go into almost a shopping cart like favorites list at the top here. So I'll be able to scroll back through my favorites. So just in case you're finding content that you don't have time to look at, but would like to revisit later. Okay, we're going to come back together just to wrap up. I hope that you have found some content or a strategy that will work well with your classroom, or a strategy that you could, or content that you could share out with a colleague. So that's kind of our call to action at the end of our session today, is to use that interactive content in your classroom or a classroom that you support, and then share your learning with a colleague. So if you found something great today that you think might work for the person down the hall, feel free to share that content with them. All of the students and teachers in your district have access to that content. And also, I know that Carrie put in the attendance link into the chat. So if you were unable to access that, please let us know. As a reminder, this was our learning target today, and I hope that you walked away with a couple ideas, and thank you for spending a little bit of time with me this morning.
Thank you so much, Tracy.
Appreciate it.
We appreciate you, putting aside some of your time today to
course.
join us. So definitely appreciate it. Everyone, again, if you would take just a moment to fill in that attendance link, please. It's in the chat. If you need the one from the keynote, by the way, this morning, I know that got dropped in at the very last minute, so a lot of people didn't see it. If you need that one, let me know, and I can drop that one in for you as well. Excuse me. And with that, I'm going to end the recording.